Hello, and welcome to the Ohio Chamber of Commerce's Elected Officials Interview Series. I'm Rick Carfagna. I'm Senior Vice President for Government Affairs for the Ohio Chamber, and we are really honored today to have the Speaker of the Ohio House, Jason Stevens, joining us. Speaker Stevens, what an honor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. You hail from the 93rd Ohio House District. You're a state representative.
Right.
You also happen to lead the other 98 state representatives. But talk a little bit about your specific area, the area you represent, and the unique dynamics and interests of those that you represent.
Sure. The 93rd District is as far south as you can go in Ohio, but it's Lawrence, Jackson, and Gallia counties. A lot of it is on the river. Also, a lot of it is a little more inland. One of the biggest things geographically is we have a lot of hills in southern Ohio, which gives us some economic challenges, but it also gives us a lot of character. We have great people. We love our families. We love being Buckeyes, and it's just a great place to live.
Yeah. So you actually were, I guess, a redshirt freshman because you did get an appointment.
Right.
You are now technically in your sophomore term only
Right.
as a state representative.
Right.
But you do have an extensive background in public service. You were at one point a county auditor, a county commissioner, even chair of your county party.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about how all of those experiences have added up to help you govern at the state level?
Right. I guess that makes me a redshirt sophomore this year. But, I've heard somebody say, one day in the legislature is like a year in other public service jobs.
That's
But yeah, I started out back in 2001. I've been an elected official since 2001. Spent 10 years as a county commissioner, 9 years as county auditor, now, 4 as state rep. So it's been a lot of, people are people. A lot of times you may come into a circumstance or a situation or something that seems familiar because of that experience. It may be a little bit different at the state level. As I say, there's a few, sometimes the dollars, you might have a few zeros and commas after the dollars, but, a lot of the emotions and personalities are very, very similar. With folks, and you just try to be respectful and understanding, but also you can anticipate what somebody's reaction may be just from prior experience a lot of times.
So an important note to our chamber members is that, like them, you have experience also running a business as an insurance agent,
Right.
Licensed insurance agent, and also I know you were engaged too with your local chamber down in your area. Can you tell us a little bit about what it meant for you to run your business? Are you still managing your agency? If so, I guess what kind of challenges are you seeing as a small business owner?
Well, it's a family business. My grandmother purchased the agency back in the mid-'80s, and my parents and I still work there. And actually, I'm a certified financial planner. So the original plan was to, sell insurance and it's house and cars and do financial planning. However, I showed up at a Lincoln Day dinner, and somebody encouraged me to run for county commissioner one day, and now it's, I always wanted to own my own business and dabble in politics. Well, now I dabble in my own business and do politics. So
drafted into service.
Yeah, exactly. But no, we still, I still do some of the bookkeeping and, some of the back office work there at the insurance office. And, my mom and dad still work there, and family members and people who've worked there in our office for a long time. But, that's part of what I think is interesting about the insurance business or any small business. We're really involved with our community. We're sponsoring Little League teams. We're doing, pancake breakfast on the way over here. I had a guy ask me if, I'd send in the check for the whole sponsorship for the athletic, the Athletic Boosters golf tournament coming up in a couple of weeks. So that's part of a small town too.
Wearing a lot of hats,
yeah.
I see. So each speaker of the Ohio House, they tend to put their fingerprints on the structure of the House, depending on whatever the needs of the day happen to be.
Right.
And one of the first things that you did when you took the gavel was to alter the committee structures of the House.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the thought processes that went into the creation of, I know there were some new standing committees that were created. I think there were a couple of new subcommittees on the finance committee that handles the budget that were created to address some very specific needs in front of us. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, there's a couple of different things. Some of it is workload based. Some of it is, future based. What are we looking for the future? How do we address certain situations? Not to get too deep into the woods, but one of the committees that we created is the Aviation and Aerospace Committee, which
Right.
is something that is extremely exciting for me. We have some very talented representatives throughout all different industries, but especially in this with Chairman Holmes and Vice Chair Willis, both military pilots and a lot of extensive background in this. And obviously Ohio is the birthplace of aviation. So with all of the different aviation and aerospace opportunities we have in Ohio, we wanted to expand on that. We also created the Pensions Committee, which, there's a lot of talk about pensions, and it's a huge amount of investment, and
Sure.
wanted to make sure that it gets the attention that those issues deserve. And sometimes, especially in the Health Committee, right? So the Health Committee, we split up.
A lot of traffic in that.
A lot of traffic in the Health Committee, and it can be anything from a scope of practice bill, which is, as to the folks who are worried about that, it's everything in the world, but to those who are not familiar, it can be a little dry, to some of the more socially exciting bills, I'll say it that way. So we tried to split that up just to allow those bills to have the air and to be heard, and also not exhaust members at the same time. After 5 hours of committee, you're not quite as sharp as you were the first 2 hours. So I think it's been working well, but a lot of it is, taking into account, the expertise of our members,
Sure.
and trying to put them in a place that they can be beneficial to the whole state.
So it's about, to your point, it's about giving issues the attention that they deserve.
Right.
And then it's also leveraging the skill sets of your individual members.
Yeah, it's a combination of both, but also respecting the fact that we are human beings, and people who care about these bills are human beings, and we want to be able to be respectful of their time, but also the seriousness that these issues deserve, that discussion. So.
Yes. So the House typically sets its policy tone and its agenda with the first several bills out of the gate,
Right.
early in the General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the theme of the House is Ohio, quote, "Ohio is our home," end quote.
Right.
And there are stated priorities of growing our economy, protecting our families, and educating our communities. I don't expect you to have to go into detail about all 12 of the
Yeah.
House's priority bills,
Right.
but maybe can you talk a little bit about a couple of them? How do you think they're going to improve quality
Right.
of life for Ohioans?
Well, and I think one of the things that is important, and I think it doesn't matter where we are from in Ohio, whether you're just barely in Ohio, on the river, or on the lake, or here in Central Ohio,
Sure.
we're all proud to be Ohioans. It's a real patriotism that we have, and so we wanted to try to focus on that and take advantage of that attitude that we have as Ohioans, and make that part of our center as we are putting together policy. And a lot of our policies and a lot of our bills were kind of put into the budget. Growing our economy, we dealt with housing, we dealt with tax change, which there's, we just
Big priorities for the Ohio Chamber. Yes.
tip of the iceberg on the tax changes, but we did flatten the tax rate in our budget, and taking care of those who can't take care of themselves, and then of course education. It wouldn't be a good state budget without a good discussion on education funding.
So you talked about the budget. It's a great segue. So $88.1 billion
Right.
state operating budget.
Right.
It's cleared the House already. It is now
Right.
pending in the Senate. It cleared the House with a very healthy vote of 78-19. So talk a little bit, if you can, about what were the House's biggest issues of importance. What are the things that you are planning as Speaker to push for as you work with the Senate, with the governor?
Right. So this budget cycle is a little different because of there were one-time monies that we're usually not used to.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it's a mixed blessing, because there's good money there, but you can't really, in my opinion, and a lot of our opinions, you can't start a program, because sooner or later it'll run out of money.
Yeah.
So
It's
we
got to be sustainable.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So we tried to put a lot of one-time money into one-time type projects. Sometimes it may look and feel like a capital bill, but that's okay. I think the big spending items were, or the big items of priorities, I guess. Number one is we funded the fair school funding at the 2022 inputs, which is extremely important for our schools. We also increased the Ed Choice up to 450% of poverty for folks to be eligible to that. The other thing we did in particular, I think it's for the Chamber's audience, is we did tax cuts. And one of the things we talked about in House Bill 1, which was one of those priority bills, was trying to flatten the tax rate. Well, we did that, but instead of flattening all the rates, we actually did it from the bottom up. We took the two lowest taxing brackets, the tax brackets, and put those together to 2.75%, which everybody even above that will benefit roughly the same. I thought that was really good. The other thing that was that I think is going to be helpful for a lot of businesses is we aligned the Ohio tax code with the IRS under Section 179, bonus depreciation. So anybody that's buying equipment and investing, that should be very helpful. And that was part of our budget package, which it's not the most exciting thing, but if anybody knows, the accountants really like it. So and business owners really like it. So we did a lot of those things. Plus, the other thing that I think is really important is the Medicaid expenditures that were in the budget, because Medicaid is there to help those who can't help themselves. Yeah. But what's important is the funding, and the reason for the increases is because we need to have employees who can help those folks. And when you look at entry-level positions for direct service providers, it's roughly $13, $14 an hour today. Well, not very many folks are going to want to go into that line of work when they can go make $15, $16 an hour, at a much easier job, if you will. So we tried to put those investments in there to encourage people for that to be their career, because 10 years from now, if that person didn't choose to go into that career, they may not go on to become a nurse or CFO or whatever of these facilities or businesses. So,
and I know a lot of our other chamber members, they should be proud to hear that the House did put a lot of really good workforce priorities into the budget, increasing housing stock. There are a number of great incentives across single-family housing to multifamily rentals, trying to grow that type of supply. Child care, there were a lot of really good things put in with child care to increase access and availability of child care. And even with higher ed and even with job training and job credentialing, lots of supports there. So we are grateful for the
$88 billion, we could talk for a long time about all the different investments. But I was really proud of the budget. I was proud of the budget process. We tried to listen to all sides and tried to, even within the Republican caucus, there were some interesting debates. On where the priorities are, and trying to do that and realizing that if you get 80% of what you want, that's pretty good in a budget process.
Indeed. So you talked a little bit about different segments within one particular caucus. I mean, you're leading a chamber of 99 members. The House Republican caucus has 67 members, and to your point, it is a tricky. It's a tricky job for you, given you have this spectrum of personalities, interests, and backgrounds, and you've got to try to find that right balance between being inclusive of what your members want versus you being a central figure that, at times you have to take charge. You have to make decisive decisions on behalf of your caucus. You can't just be deferential on everything. How would you describe your leadership style, Speaker?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is listen. When you have, you look at Ohio, Ohio is extremely different from coast to coast, if you will. And it's great, right? I remember my wife and I, we had a soccer league that we ran for 10 years. We had about 300 kids. And when you have that many kids and that many soccer moms and soccer dads, you have to learn to listen if you want to try to navigate ballet practice and soccer games and football games and all that. So believe it or not, that was actually pretty good training to really listen to folks. And what I like to try to do is, it's really easy to listen to folks who are very, they're not afraid to tell you what they think, but not all members are that way. So I always like to try to make, if I see a couple of members who haven't really said a whole lot on an issue, I always try to, maybe reach out and maybe make a phone call or talk to them just to see what they're really thinking, because
coax them out of their shell.
Well, they're paying attention too, and their vote counts just as much as everybody's. So I think listening and then being able to take what you hear and consolidate that down into, where is the caucus and where is the House really going to be able to come to an agreement on, because ultimately we owe it to the people of Ohio to bring that together.
We do. So we had Minority Leader Allison Russo here last fall, interviewed her much in the same way, and so I'll pose kind of a similar question to you as we did to her. We have term limits here in the state of Ohio, unlike in Washington, D.C., you have this constant coming and going of legislators, of members of leadership, and just overall institutional and policy knowledge. There have now been 5 different speakers, 3 different minority leaders in just the past 5 years.
Right.
What has been your approach to try to bring together different segments of your caucus so that they feel heard? I know you talked a little bit about kind of reaching out to them. If you have anything more to add on that.
Yeah, I think it's important. Any organization, when there's stability, it's going to thrive. Whether that's the House of Representatives, whether it's a business, whether it's a service organization, when there is that stability. Now, the House is designed to be noisy. It's designed to be, the arena of ideas, is what I like to say.
It's 3 times as large as the Senate.
Yeah. I mean, and it's an arena of ideas, because if you can take as a representative and you can convince people that your idea is worthy, or that it's beneficial to, a majority of the members of the House, then that says a lot. That's not an easy thing to do. But I think putting those ideas out there and encouraging people to stand up for what your district wants, or what you think from an ideological standpoint, and being able to defend it and have that debate, because that's what I think is important about the committee process, even some of the floor debates, is here's where we are, and that's how you change people's minds, and that's how you get to a better solution at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we always like to end on a little bit more of a personal, lighthearted note. You are not only one of Ohio's prominent leaders in state government, but you're also a husband. You're a father of 3 sons. I mean, I'm the oldest of 4 boys. A lot of laundry, a lot of food.
They're not boys anymore, but
and like me, you're a long-suffering Cleveland Browns fan. It's a generational thing. And so, if and when you are able to relax, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, I like to spend time with our family. My boys, our boys are 27, 25, and 19, so they're not little anymore. And, I enjoy playing golf with my dad. My dad's the biggest Browns fan, by the way. He remembers when Jim Brown was playing, and we might slip off to a Browns game. And, we had a game, we went up to see the Steelers a couple years ago, and we went to see the Browns, and Dad had actually never been to Cleveland to watch a game, and we went there, and oh goodness, he almost got in a shoving match, and I was like, everybody I've explained that to says, oh yeah, that's a Browns game, but no, I enjoy spending time with our family. We live on a farm there in Getaway, so we have plenty. There's always work to do there, but just hanging out and playing around the golf every now and then, and enjoying time with others is fun. I actually enjoy part of the community, there in Lawrence County, whether it's a pancake breakfast or spaghetti dinner. Sometimes those are fun to just. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it is actually fun. My wife, she really enjoys getting out and meeting folks and just networking and enjoying people. So
you're understanding, the people that you represent, and you haven't lost sight of what's important in life.
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
Great to hear.
So.
Well, House Speaker Jason Stevens,
all right.
Thank you for
so
your
much.
time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us once again for our elected officials interview series. Again, I'm Rick Carfagna with the Ohio Chamber. Our guest today has been Ohio House Speaker Jason Stevens. Thank you again for the wonderful conversation, and we'll see you next time.